potato.
Hello and good evening, everybody, and welcome to Unpacking Country of the Sea, from Gulf to Gulf to Gulf. My name is Inga Seidler, and I'm the curator of this year's transmediale exhibition program. And with me is Shaina Anand of CAMP, who will present their film, From Gulf to Gulf to Gulf. The film is directly connected and, so to say, an activation of their project Country of the Sea that CAMP are presenting here in the exhibition Territories of Complicity. I don't want to say so much about the movie because Shaina will do so in just a bit, but From Gulf to Gulf to Gulf is just one of the many long-term projects that CAMP have been working on since they started their practice as a collaborative studio in Bombay in 2007. And their practice can be characterized as hands-on technological experimentation and new forms of spatial and historical exploration. It revolves around questions of authority and property and investigating infrastructures and distribution. And with that, I'm passing on to Shaina and From Gulf to Gulf to Gulf.
Thank you, Inga. And thank you, Olga. Inga and Olga. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm going to begin with my own transversal image. It's a transversal map of the world in the Arabian Sea in 2009, which is where and when our engagement begins. So maybe I take this. So this is on the western Indian, on the west coast of India, the Gulf of Kutch, which is seafaring minority community, shipbuilders since antiquity. And up there is the Gulf of Persia with Iran on the top, where in 2009 we're seeing liberalization via Republican Guard, cheap diesel. On the other side of the Persian Gulf is the United Arab Emirates, duty-free ports since the 1800s. And on the east coast of Africa is the Gulf of Aden. And at that point, the Somali region was four semi-states, literally. You had Puntland, Somaliland, autonomous region of Puntland, and then in Kismayo you had UN transitional federal government, you had the part controlled by Islamic Kamamluka, the Al-Shabaab faction, and so several semi-states. So for the geographically challenged, this is the map. So you can now, there's the Gulf of Kutch in that little mouth, the Gulf of Persia, and the Gulf of Aden. And in the map you see inside the country of the sea, of course, the land and sea relationships have been inversed. It is a country of the sea built on people-to-people interaction and different forms of kinship, and home for many of the sailors for whom the country is really a home for 9 months. Here is Sharjah port in January 2009, right after what was called the global financial crisis. Maybe I just hold this. So if you look, there are these large wooden vessels that are lining up what's the downtown corniche of both the UAE cities of Sharjah and Dubai. These large wooden vessels, when we encountered them first, we realized that almost every single boat was heading to Bosaso, Berbera, Mogadishu, Kismayu, and they were carrying with them everything from milk powder to incubators and dentist chairs, petrol pumps, and cars. Now, there is a general perception, both in the cities and creeks like Dubai and Sharjah, and also in the Indian imagination, that this trade is somehow, it's a gray trade, or it's a black trade, and it's often dismissed as smuggling. So in our attempt to counter that image, we were looking for an account which we realized could be found in a certain density in the record room of the customs house. So here is us. We dropped the files, of course, in our attempt to pull out these typewritten records, analog records in Arabic, but we pulled out the shipping manifests of the trade that went between the year 2008 and 2009, that year of the so-called financial crisis, but everything that left the port of Sharjah and went into the Somali region. And 98% of that trade was going in those giant wooden vessels. And all those vessels were built in 2 estuarial towns in the Gulf of Kutch. So I won't read this, but here is one of our counter images. So we prepared a book made up of the ship manifests that we got from the Sharjah Creek Customs Office. Of course, they were in Arabic. We wrote a software. A group of people translated them. And it was a way for us to somehow take this data out of the economy, both black and white economy, and place it back into a form of intelligibility, not only as data, definitely not as analysis, but as an image and as a set of images. Back there, and of course, that's to just draw attention, that's MSV, mechanized sailing vessel Gaushe Vashila. And it's going to Puntland, that's what it's carrying with it. And on that same day, MSV, mechanized sailing vessel, it's an oxymoron there, MSV Sultane Medina came back with 15,716 bags of charcoal. So that's the charcoal coming back, and that's Gaushe Vashila also coming back, and on the on the Sharjah Creek in February of 2009. In March, we also enabled a series of FM radio broadcasts from the shore. It was here that a friendship began with certain boats and seafarers. Till then, we were only looking at the data, who over the years we got to know better, and who we would continue to meet over 4 years in the literal towns of their homes in the country of the sea. So that's the radio broadcast. That's the antenna on top of the deck of MSV Nazre Karam. Nazre Karam is benevolent eyes. Yeah, we should just translate the titles of these ships. This is Bosaso, and this is now 2012, so years into our project. And I put this image in just to give you a little hint of the general economy that drives the trade. It's not OPEC, but it's diesel. And this is Ashok and Jatin, an anthropologist who was studying Somali piracy then, in Bosaso, standing in front of a pink limousine that bears, written in an indelible white marker, Gaushe Vashila, that same boat 3 years later, leaving Sharjah, or accounted in the manifest on 14th May 2012. This is one of the estuarial towns in Gujarat, Mandvi Salaya, the larger of the two, and this is Jam Salaya. And as you can see how the boat-making activity takes place in these wombs, the actual word for them is godi, which actually means lap. And so that's what's left behind when a boat is pulled out, right? And the entire town builds ships and owns them, operates them, and sails them. This is back to the larger of the littoral towns, Mandvi, and it's a really peculiar thing. It's a ship museum. and it's run by this guy. He used to be a shipping pilot, but he's an old, bigoted, bitter man full of rage because at one point, the Kharvas, these were the seafaring Hindu societies, owned the boats, and the Muslim seafaring societies of the Badelas and the Bhayas were usually the crew and the shipbuilders, but the ownership was always with the Kharvas. And that's gone, and he has his kooky little like ship museum there, which looks like a fake ship. And outside on the dock here, those giant vessels are being sawed and being hammered in and taking form. Just to connect back to the exhibition, in 2010, in this literal town of Mandvi, an exhibition and an international conference happens, and it's called Gujarat and the Sea, the Theatre of the World. And it's a very peculiar exhibition. There's Shivji's silly model boat. And literally in the conference, you had to speak loudly because of the din of all the drilling and the shipbuilding that was happening outside. And yet that activity was completely occluded in trying to build, firstly, borrowing digital prints from the British archive. So they weren't even originals. They were prints that came. And they were used to create a nostalgic but revisionist history of Gujarat's maritime history. And you have to remember, this is where Narendra Modi, our right-wing prime minister, comes from, and Gujarat has been the right-wing lab for a while now. And these are Muslim seafaring societies on its very edge. So that's Ashok, who walks into the exhibition with a Nikon Coolpic and starts clicking photographs of the photographs. And we layered them and represented that exhibition by calling it the annotated Gujarat and the Sea. And this is just a cheeky one, which we just called the sunsets over Surat. So it's watercolor panoramas of Surat. And they're telling images, right? Because imperialism, as Bernard Cohen tells us, was always the view seen as the view from the boat. And that is really how, through the centuries of colonialism, you would see empire represented as a view from the boat. And so I think the title is Watercolor with Flash, and it's titled The Sun Sets Over Surat. But really, it's if imperialism is the view from the boat, then the Malaysian historian Eng Seng Ho, in an essay post 9/11, while talking about the Hadrami, southern Yemen, Hadramaut diaspora, who again are people of the country of the sea, spoke about what could possibly be the non-imperial view from the other boat. And that's really perhaps what can introduce the film, this view from the other boats. I'm going to take a sip of water, but I want to sort of delay the screening of the film by a few minutes by So before we begin the film, here is, thank you. Here is just the timeline view in the online archive that we run of the first 4 minutes of the film. And in order to orient you further, I'm going to borrow from Sarah Emmerd's orientation, but also from really boring film analysis, so bear with me. And I'm going to do a textual reading of the first 3 minutes of the film. Sound travels first. Let me get up. Hang on. Yeah, where are we? We're here. The black. So sound travels first, image appears after a beat. An actor prepares, adjusts the mirror, checking himself. There's someone hiding behind him, brandishing a kitchen knife, also checking himself out. The actor sees him, and he runs out of frame, only to be pulled back in and smothered with a hug that beats to the rhythm of the song. An abhinay or mime follows, with the knife as a prop, with lip syncing and chest heaving. We are inside the cabin of a wooden ship. The fabulation exudes humor and love. This is a film built on a social contract called friendship. Now we're here. That was shot 1. Here. Titles, cut in on black over the song. Camp, Siddiq Umar Sanghar and Junis Salim Ahmad Bhagad present a film based on actual events. This is a documentary in its purest, most unadulterated form, rule number 1. Next title, and videos of actual events. An assemblage, a film based on and made from hundreds of videos. I think there are 364 shots in the film. Many videos in the film are single units, one-take shots, videos shot out at sea over 10 years, and often found married to music. They embody an alterity, an otherness of the everyday made cinematic. Each is an image, not a visual. Rule number 2. We cut back to the video after that title. They are laughing, they readjust and pan the camera, which by now we sense is a cell phone. And by now we know that they are in the cabin of a wooden ship. The friend pretends to steer the boat, hands on the wheel. Outside the window, we see that they are out at sea. But the boat is static. They seem to be role-playing, but they also do what they are pretending to do. The lyrics, if you understand Hindustani, tell us that the days don't end and the nights are a burden. In these circumstances, life is hard. Song continues, film title, on black. Kachi Vahan, that's here. Kachi Vahan, Pani Wala. The original title of the film, Kachi Vahan, Pani Wala, translates oddly as a Kachi vessel of the water. Even for someone from the South Asian subcontinent, it's an odd phrase. It doesn't quite make sense. The title actually is a code word. It is a trade secret, and its meaning only the sailors and their communities along the Western Indian Ocean or the Arabian Sea, be they Kutchi, Baluchi, Irani, Yemeni, or Somali, will know. We will not know. An ethnographic refusal is at play here. The English title comes up from Gulf to Gulf to Gulf. From here on, it is established that the film text has 2 readings, for the seafaring societies whose film it is, and for us, the universal audience. The film as structure must have fidelity so as to work on both levels as 2 parallel texts. And yes, there is a middle reading too, for an audience for whom the subcultural context of the songs may resonate and seem familiar, but the rest remains queer, a phantasmagoria. But still for the curious, a slight cue, which is this like wavy bit here. A slight clue, a tiny animation of a chimney and a little belch of smoke for Kachi Vahan Pani Wala. The English title, From Gulf to Gulf to Gulf, lays out the linear structure of the film, which already seems loopy and circular, nonetheless proceeding on a length of time through space and through the 3 gulfs in the Western Indian Ocean. All films have cardinal rules, structures into which we see acts, sequences, narrative arcs, etc. unfold. The structure of the film will be revealed over time, but the title lays down the 3rd cardinal principle around its process, form, and mode of address, cut. Prologue. That was just the title sequence. We are back at sea, it's windy, we appear to be sailing. The wooden ship is bright pink. The wooden cabin is bright pink. 2 men are sitting cross-legged, discussing how to fix a roof on a small wooden ship. It's a model ship, while referencing the roof of their own larger and real vessel. A big jar of woodcraft adhesive is in front of them. In the next shot, the roof is fixed on the model ship over the The roof is fixed over the model ship, and a white stripe is being painted on the body of the model boat, carefully over the green stripe. The green is the peace of Islam, the white is for the peace of the world. Together, these colors provide divine support for the ship from under the water. The camera lingers on the cabin and the galleys of the model ship and then pans up to reveal the same in the big boat. This is mimesis, but not only. Scene 1, a wide shot of the shipyard, many wooden ships in various stages of building. The title, superimposed, tells us this is Jam Salaya, Gulf of Kutch, India. We are inside the cabin of a huge ship under construction, as is revealed with the pan. The view from the town is seen through the cabin as a view from the boat, this giant boat on the yard. Its name is MSV Al Sultan. A young lad checks his hair in the reflection and enters the cabin, poses. Shot 10. A bag of wood planing tools, a large jar of the same woodcraft adhesive that we saw in the model boat scene, the same cabin we saw in the opening song, the same cabin we saw in the model boat. The sailors make the boats, they sail the boats, and on those long days and nights in between work and rest, they also make videos, sometimes with songs married to them. So these first 3 scenes, the title, prologue, and scene 1, lay down the syntax for the rest of the film. Also, the title sequence is a cell phone video belonging to the category called Found. The prologue is Handycam, filmed at sea, and part of our collaboration with some boats and sailors. And the third is at land, filmed by us. Enjoy the film.